guys, welcome to Shower Fully. I hope you've had a great week so far. As you can tell from the title of this video, this is going to be a book review. This is actually my first review here on YouTube, and guess? Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. Yeah, what can I say about this book? I'm sure if you're sort of like if you love to read books, you're sort of in, depending on what sort of community you hang out in on social media, you probably would have heard all about the Children of Blood and Bone. It's by a 23-year-old woman she's based in America. The book, like, there was like really good reviews. It already has like a deal, like it's gonna be a series, a film, a movie, you know, a big Hollywood blockbuster, and I just cannot wait. And so I thought, you know, why not? I'm gonna read it and see, but not just because of all the rave reviews, but really because of what the core of the storyline is. I'll get into that soon, but I just want to start off by talking about the cover. Look at this design. This is amazing. This is eye-catching. This is brilliant. Like, you know, it's just amazing. Like, I love the colors of the silver, the red. Obviously it has to do with, like, you know, the story of the book. And then the behind cover, usually you'd have like a summary or a blurb of what the book is about, but this is just like a few phrases that just, you know, catches your attention. And it's: they killed my mother, they took our magic, they tried to bury us, now we rise. And it's so strong, and in just those few sentences you sort of get a summary of what the book is and what the core of the storyline is, which is amazing. Now you open the book. I was really amazed because I'd never seen anyone taking pictures of like the inner cover, and then you see, bam, the map of Orisha. Now this really it was a really pleasant surprise for me, because obviously I know it's sort of like the story is inspired by the Yoruba gods, the Orishas, and the characters are, you know, all are black, obviously Nigerian. It's a fantasy book, but I didn't think it would have names of places that I could actually relate to, that I could actually, you know, sort of have an idea of. So now the map is obviously not the map of Nigeria whatsoever. It's its own fantasy world, but the names of the cities and the place, like, to be able to, you know, read out the name and actually know of the place or what inspired the names and stuff is amazing. Because as a child growing up, I love to read lots of books, and obviously African literature wasn't so big at the time. Lots of the books I was reading were all Western, you know, books written by Western writers and all of that. And I got to really learn about places, things, names and stuff that I'd never seen myself. So that's just a bit of background of why this book means a lot, and sort of I can imagine it will mean a lot to other people, because you, as someone from a third world, you get to learn about so much about other parts of the world, but you're always sort of like an outsider looking in. There's no one sort of really genuinely coming in to look into your own culture and give it, like, you know, such would I say breath of fresh air, or would I say amazement as you have for other things and other people's culture. So to be able to see these names, I was just like, oh wow. And the first I actually saw was Kano. I was like, Kano, and it's up in the north in the map, and Kano in Nigeria is in the north. So I was like, I looked quickly, I was like, oh okay, it's not the map of Nigeria, but she uses some of the names, like there's Makurdi, there's a state which is Makurdi, Dutse, Ibadan. Ibadan is in Yoruba city, Ilorin, Lagos, Sokoto, you know, Gombe, Lokoja, Ikoyi. Then we've got Benin City here, Kaduna. So like all those names, it's just like, wow, this is amazing. Like, growing up as a little girl, I never would have thought like I'll be reading things, you know. Obviously before this book there's been so many writers now, you know, that have come out with amazing books and stuff that have given, you know, light to our rich culture. But with this, it's a fantasy book. I don't think I've ever read a, you know, fantasy book that had to do with Nigerian characters and writers. So this was amazing. So you open the book, you know, you read, it's sort of the brief, what's it? So it's like sort of like a brief review of the book and what the book is all about. The next page is sort of like all the reviews from like, you know, different publications and all of that. And you've got obviously the title of the book here. And then she goes on to sort of give like descriptions of the 10 clans, the 10 Orisha clans of the story of like the people of the book, which is like really interesting. So what another thing that really so now I'll go into why I really wanted to read the book. I really wanted to read this book because obviously it's about like the Yoruba gods, the power and stuff, and for me that was really interesting because growing up, you know, I'd watched movies about Hercules, there were cartoons. Okay. Hello? Growing up, I'd watched cartoons about Hercules, you know, I've read other books and watched other movies about Zeus, you know, all the other like Greek gods and stuff. That's what we really know about. I watched a movie when I was younger and really loved it about Odysseus. So all the sort of mythical gods and stuff, but they were never things of ours. And yeah, I never really, you know, read a book or watched a play or whatever that had to do with our, you know, Nigerian gods, Yoruba gods to be specific. So when I saw this book, I was like, wow, this is so cool. And another event that sort of made me really want to read this book is while I was at university, actually, I came in contact with a guy who was studying, I think it was information technology or computer intelligence or something like on those lines anyway, that had to do with IT. He was doing a master's at Cambridge, and for his final project he wanted to create a game, and him as well, he was like, oh, because he was a big, he's a big gamer, and he was like, all the games he always plays, you know, sometimes they have all these Greek gods and stuff, so he thought like he wanted to incorporate our history, because he's a Yoruba guy, our history and culture into his project, and he wanted to create a game where there'll be actually Yoruba gods with sort of powers. They have like Shango with fire, you know, Oya, Yemoja and all of that. So he came to me at that time because I'm a writer, and he wanted me to write a storyline that he could use to, you know, create his game. Anyway, he ended up not doing that anymore because it would cost so much money, it would cost so much time than he had for the project. So he didn't do it. But ever since then, I had in my mind like, actually, yes, this is like a great, brilliant idea. But I never got like a really good inspiration for me to pursue that line down, because I thought, you know, one day if I do get an inspiration, I would want to write about our own gods and put them out there on the map. So when I saw this by Tomi, had this, I was like, yes, amazing, I want to read it. I'm really happy she did that. And yeah, like, you know, it's gonna be made into a film now. All I can think about is like, my gosh, if you think Wakanda was brilliant, I cannot wait for this book. I cannot wait for this book. I cannot wait for this book, you know. If Wakanda is like what it's been, it's broken lots of like records in America and the world for like action movies. Like, this book is gonna be amazing. Some people are terming it like, oh, the black Harry Potter. Not really, both writers are great in their own right, but this is gonna be phenomenal. I cannot wait to see the cast. Ooh, the cast is gonna be amazing. Now, what we've sort of experienced from reading books that have then been turned into film, they often don't do the books justice. So I'm a bit like with the whole excitement and what I really enjoyed about this book. Hopefully the film does it justice. But you know, anyway, let me don't get carried away into film. Let's talk about the book. So now, the book, obviously, the characters. I really enjoyed the characters. The main protagonist is Zelly, and Zelly is like a teenager, and it just sort of, we're introduced to her in the first chapter, and it's sort of just sets sort of like the pace and ground of like her background, where she's coming from, a bit of her experiences, and then as we go further along, as she's sort of like almost the child who maybe does wrong or tries to do right or ends up doing the wrong thing, but she gets thrown into a situation where, you know, it's questionable as well. Why can't you just do the right thing for once and stuff? But in that position, she was in that context, she was doing the right thing, she was following her heart and her gut, but to her family it was sort of like, just stay out of it and, you know, not bother yourself with other things that's gonna steer us away from our peace and, you know, our little safety we have. So that was sort of like throwing us into like you know, what the book was going to be about, the core and stuff. I'm trying really hard not to give any spoilers. I know in this day and age we're like, oh, spoilers, no, don't tell me, I don't want to hear. I grew up in like I grew up in a phase where spoilers wasn't a thing, because if you'd never watched a movie or read a book, you probably never would. So when you find someone who has, we all sit and gather around and listen to that person, you know, storyteller and stuff. So I grew up in there. I remember when I was at boarding school, I had watched The Parent Trap. No one had watched it. Everyone, like in the bunk beds, just sat down, clustered around, and I was just in the middle talking and narrating the story. I don't see myself as a good orator. I'm more of a writer, but I tried the best I could. So I sort of grew up with that anyway. If I haven't watched a film, I haven't read a book, I probably would never do so. So I better just, you know, hear the story from someone else. So for me, spoilers, I'm just like, oh, please give me a break, you know. I don't care much about spoilers, but I know some of you do care about spoilers, so I'm trying my hardest not to give any spoilers. But yeah, in terms of the character, the main protagonist, Zelly, I really love her strength, and she really personalized her and made her really human, which is why I like, because some of the fears she had in the book, I personally was trying to put myself in the same position, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I feel this as well. I also love the other character, Inan, who is sort of like her nemesis, and his towards the ending, I don't want to give it away, his towards the ending was just so annoying. I'm just like, and the book, exactly what I sort of learned from his storyline of the book is, you have to really stand for yourself. You have to really stand for what you believe. It gets to a point, all that you learned, all your parents taught you, all you learned from school, from other, you know, influences and carers and stuff, it gets to a point where you sort of bring them all together and reason for yourself and sort of stand for yourself. Are you going to stand on this side or this side? Are you going to keep being, you know, in the grey scale and all of that? And yeah, so that was sort of like his storyline. His storyline was really cool. I loved his character a lot, but it was just an annoying character as well. Then the main other one, so the book is sort of told from three perspectives: Zelly, Inan, and Amory. And Amory, her character was good and really important for the book, because obviously her sort of character is what sort of steers the book in the direction it's gone and sort of takes it along. But for some reason I didn't quite like her character. I recalled every time I would read her own perspective, I'm just like, ugh, I can't wait for it to get to Zelly or get in, and like, you know, I couldn't care much about her own perspective on how things were going. But obviously for the story, her perspective is really, really important. So that's about the characters. Now another sort of vibe I got from the book is gender roles. I loved how there was nothing like that. It was sort of, after a while I was like, actually towards the end, when one of sort of like the leader of a group sort of was giving directives to his sort of, what do I say, his subordinates or his chiefs, something like that, and it was actually a woman. He told her, you take these two men and go over to this direction and, you know, set up and do what we've planned and everything. And to me that was just like a bit powerful, because in today's world it's sort of like, oh, women are not supposed to fight, women are not supposed to do this, men are supposed to do this, blah blah blah. But in this book, it was just devoid of all of that bias, and I really, really loved it. There was nothing like, oh, she's a woman so she should do this, he's a man so she can do this, or she can't fight because she's a woman. No, it was just sort of, there was none of that. It was just like a peaceful, not peaceful, obviously they're not peaceful because of what they're doing, they're fighting for a cause, but it was sort of like none of that played into their characters, into their personalities, into what they said, into, it was just a, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, let's go for this. So I really loved that about the book, and hopefully the world comes to be this way soon. Yeah, so that's about gender roles. That's what I really loved. Another thing that really caught my attention with the book was in terms of the hair texture. So now when you see this cover, you can see this is not really your natural a natural African woman, Nigerian woman wouldn't have this sort of hair texture all by itself, to be manipulated. So when she described in the beginning chapters Zelly, and it was like, oh, her flowing long straight hair and stuff, I was like, what are you on about, Tomi Adeyemi? Like, what straight hair? I thought these characters are supposed to be like, you know, rooted in Yoruba culture, which is very Nigerian and West African. So where's this straight hair coming from? But as you read the book and go along, I don't want to say why, you get to understand why she had straight hair. which I thought was amazing, the way she incorporates all of that into the storyline. It's not just glaring, so she's sort of the writer that is not, she's not just describing, it's sort of just telling you the story and taking you on the journey, which is amazing, coming towards the end and realizing, oh, okay, I'm like, amazing. I loved it. Another thing I want to talk about quickly is her writing style. I love her writing style. She's sort of a writer that doesn't just use words fluff and trying to use big words and vocabulary and stuff, which is why I like. I'm sort of like a reader who likes to read simply. In terms of my writing style as well, I'm a really like simple writer. I don't over analyze the use of my words, and I say this because this may seem like duh, like, you know, that's everyone, but not really, because there's actually two books I've tried to read by really top well-known, world-known writers, and I just couldn't read the book because it was just the only way I could describe the first one I tried was it was disconcerting. I'll try to read it, but it was just like, you're doing too much. Obviously, for me, in terms of maybe the way I take information in, that was too much for me because they're well known and really good for a reason. Thousands of people have read them and they're well celebrated. And that's not even then, I don't even see it as negative, but I just see it as, in terms of their writing style, that didn't gel with me. So with this book, it was just amazing the way I was just reading through, and I'm a really slow reader actually as well. So just reading through the words and everything just flowing seamlessly, just aiding me in creating all the pictures and everything in my head. It was brilliant. So I really loved her. I really love her writing style, and yeah, I think if you're like a simple reader like myself that doesn't want to get confused with like fluffy words and, you know, having to go and look up in the dictionary what a word means, then this book is definitely for you. You should definitely check it out. So yeah, that's about her writing style I really liked. I hope you sort of enjoyed my quick summary of the book. I sort of don't want to make this video too long. So I'm trying to move it along quickly. So yeah, as a summary, I'll definitely say it's a really interesting book. You definitely, if you love sort of fantasy books, if you love to sort of learn a bit more about mythology and stuff, and, you know, be introduced into African mythology, that'll be, you know, a great book for you to do that. Really interesting. The characters are really strong and really well thought out and really made human as well. There's supposed to be this, you know, mystical fantasy world. So yeah, I really loved it. Definitely do go and read this book. It's I really enjoyed it. Just to conclude now, when I got towards the end of the book and there's the author's notes, you get to understand the inspiration behind this book, and it actually made so much sense because the whole premise of the book is sort of like, you know, so the author's notes. So the whole premise of the book is sort of a group of people who have been subjugated, who have been oppressed by, like, you know, the other people who term themselves as the royals, as the high courts, as you know, well-off people. And when you think about it, it sort of really relates to what's happening in the world now. And in the author's note, she does then go on to say what inspired the book, how, you know, she was really saddened by all of the things that were happening in America at the time. It was a time where there was lots of killings and lots of, you know, police brutality, you know, shooting unarmed kids. You know, the police stopped the car, shot, let me quickly see, because she does give references actually. Yeah, so there's a case of the Minnesota officer who was acquitted in the killing of Philando Castile. So there was just a lot of all these things. Like, I mean, you're watching this video now, so I'm sure you're pretty much active on social media and the internet, so you sort of know what, you know, happened, what's happening, what happened in the past. So that what really inspired her, and for her it was a way to say, because when these things happen, like, what can we do? We feel helpless, we feel we can't do anything to, like, you know, help the situation, improve things. But this was a way of, like, saying, if you read this book and you were saddened by what happened to Zelly and her people, if you read this book and you really felt and you came to understand you know, the issues from the side of the oppressed, and yeah, this can also then you know, correlate to what's happening now in the world, for you to really think about, you know, your part, even if it's silently or if it's unconsciously. What sort of part do you play in the whole, you know, games of the world? What's happening in terms of, like, you know, white privilege? What's happening in terms of police brutality? What's happening in terms of racism and things like that? So this book sort of really, although you're lost in this world of the Orishans and stuff, you can definitely, once you're out of it, when you analyze and think about the values and the things, the storyline, the characters, the plot, and the pace of the book, you can definitely relate it to our everyday life and see how things are not always as they seem, and you can sort of help, you know, bring positive changes to any little way you can in your community, in your society, and all of that. So I really loved it, and it was put into the book in a subtle but strong way, where she didn't have to be like, oh, you know, well, she's a fantasy writer, so she didn't write like a literary writer would probably have write a different sort of storyline, where to be hard fact in your face of this is about today's world. But this was sort of a mystical fantasy world, but very much about today's world. So I really loved that about this book, and it's really great she's been able to contribute into, you know, the discourse in this sort of way. And so just to conclude, it's an amazing book. Go get it, go read it. I loved it. I'm sort of these days reading had always been a very big hobby of mine, but these days, because I'm so busy trying to write my own books as well, trying to do my photography, trying to do so many different things, you know, make a living, balance and have fun as well, reading, I must say, is not always the top on my sort of leisure activities to do. But this book, I must say, I read it in just a couple of days. Like I said, I'm a slow writer. I'm never ever able to read a book in a day, but I'd say this book I read it in 2 days. So not 2 straight days, or like spread out, but all together was in 2 days. And that was amazing. That was like a feat for me, because with the way I'm busy and doing so many things, I would never just put all that time aside and say I want to read a book. It's like, nope, I have things to do. But with this book, it was so interesting, and I was so engrossed in it. I was just like, I need to know what happened. I just kept on turning the page, reading and reading and reading. And yeah, so if that means anything to you, for the fact I could, you know, set down my own time and read this book, it means a lot. That means a lot to me. That meant I really enjoyed it, because the book I read before this, it took me a span of like 2 months to finish reading it. Not because I'm that slow, just because I'll just read it anytime I'm on the bus, on the train, or I have a bit of time to spare. I just didn't, the book was interesting, but I was just like, yeah, I have my own shit to do. But with this book, I had my own things to do, but I was like, no, I want to read it now. So yeah, please, yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you've read the book, let me know your thoughts as well. What did you think about Zelly and, you know, all the other characters? Please subscribe to my channel, like it, share this video with someone who maybe you think would like to hear the review about this book before buying it or whatever. But yeah, thanks for watching another video of mine. Please do subscribe to my channel. More videos coming every week, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.